All right, everyone. We have Matthew Law with us coming into the In Tribe. Thank you so much for being here. How are you?
Sierra, I am wonderful.
Yay.
I mean, it's hard to not like you have a very infectious, joyful energy. So I'm very happy to be here.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, and you do too, I gotta say. So let's dive on in. I love asking these very somewhat like holistic questions, I would say. So just to start off, what is your background? Where are you from? But like, what's your zodiac sign? Uh, that type of stuff, you know? Do you know
I
your rising? Do you know your moon sign? And I know we've
I be
had a little bit of this conversation before, but yeah, I want to know all of it. I want to share that with our tribe.
okay. I forget that you're tapped in, like that you
Yeah,
were real. You
tap
were a real
tap.
one, like Novi. Like
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny because I just roll my eyes. I mean, I'm a Scorpio, so I'm used to like that. Like that. Like there's always something. I say I'm a Scorpio and something happens.
Mm.
I like that. Like what? Like that. That right there too. All of that. I'm used to this. I'm from Yakima, Washington. That's where I was born. But I was born in Yakima, Washington, but I'm from Seattle. So I was
Okay.
raised in Seattle. I live in Los Angeles, and I don't know my rising, even though I'm told multiple times by my friend Morgan Lindsay, who's like always like, "Yo, send me your birth time. Like, send me like what the weather was. Like, send me this and that." And I forget every time. But I'm a Scorpio. I know this.
You're a Scorpio. Okay. You don't know your birth time or anything like that?
I legit have it pulled. I remember it and then I forget it immediately every time.
Ah, interesting. Okay. All right. I'm just curious now that we're on that topic. I mean, what are some things that people have said about Scorpios that you feel is true about you?
That is true. I get a lot that I don't feel is true, but that is true. Uh, passionate in across different areas.
Yeah.
Uh, maybe that's it. I get a lot at times, or at least previously, I would be told that it means that I'm like a cheater or I lie or I have like anger issues, and
Whoa.
I've never had any of these things. So I've always felt I've connected it. I think when I was younger, probably because of one specific ex of mine, to different preconceived notions. I think about who I was, and I've always dismissed it wholesale because of that, which isn't fair either. But I was like, I don't do that. Like you have more of a temper than I do. Like
Yeah.
I don't raise my voice. I don't know this and that. So those were kind of foreign concepts that I kept feeling people were like, oh, this is who you are. I'm like,
Mm,
that's not a part of my being, you know.
yeah.
So, but the
I
passion,
get that.
yeah.
Yeah, I definitely get the passionate part too. So, but yeah, I do think that people kind of use zodiac things as a means to categorize and box people and judge them as well. But I think that they're just, I don't know, I just think that the zodiac and astrology stuff is so, I don't know, I just think it's so fascinating because it can tell you a lot about people. I feel like my
Absolutely.
sign, I feel like being an Aquarius, that there are some things about what they say about Aquarians are very true. So, you
Like
know,
what? Like what for you?
I think like, so our styles are very eclectic. We're, it's like we're natural born leaders, but we're like reluctant leaders, which I think is so true because there are so many times that I've just in all throughout my life that it's like, we need a leader. And I'm just kind of like in the back, like,
I
and then
guess
they're
I'm
like,
fit for the
Sierra,
job.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, all right, cool. Do this, do this, do that. And it's just, I can tap into that really easily. They say that we're humanitarians, which I think is true. Um, I definitely feel that vibe for myself. And then, like we could just be very tough, which some people can kind of equate to being like very cold or what's the word, like non-empathetic or something. But I don't think that's true. I just think that we know how to really cut off emotions sometimes in order to like get the work done, you know. And I think about one of the most greatest Aquarians who are of our time is Michael Jordan, you know, like people could say that about him, but he was like,
I'm a champion.
look, yeah, exactly. He's like, I want to win and I'm going to make sure my team's going to win, you know? So it's stuff like that that I, you know, I kind of relate to. So we'll segue into just getting to know more of you, your backstory, growing up in Seattle. Um, you know, fill us in. Just what was that like?
You know, it's funny. I just went back home. It's even coming out of my mouth. I guess I'm saying it, but I dismissed about 8 years of my life. I was born in Yakima, which is a small town. They call it the Yak or Yak of Vegas.
Mm,
Uh, uh, Not a lot of opportunity in the area. It's kind of a devastated small town. But I realized going back that I'm very much a child of nature. You know, in the Northwest and especially in Yakima, I partially grew up. Uh, my Yakima family, as we call them, is the tribal reservation is right there. So the Yakima tribe. So
mm,
partially my family looked like the UN, if America had a UN, with such a variety of nations and ethnicities and cultures, but also like the dirt and the stars is a big part of, I think, my childhood, which
wow.
I try to not acknowledge for a long time. So I'm an only child, so I'll just be out in the dirt and in the grass, and you can really see the stars in Yakima. So these snow-capped mountains with stars and tall trees and wildlife. And then in Seattle, where I really claim as home, is it's such a synergy of the two. So, you know, there's this heartbeat of a creative city. You know, that's where Jimi Hendrix would play. That's
Yeah.
where so many musicians came through and met each other, not just the grunge scene, but even uh, uh, Ray Charles would connect with different players. And Seattle has a real soul to it. And I feel so grateful because I think my childhood at that time, you know, the community I was in was, you know, Eritrean, Ethiopian, Vietnamese, Tongva, not Tongva, Laotian,
Wow.
Korean, Chinese, like Black, white. And it was unique to that time because the city has changed so much. So I grew up in an eclectic, weird, bunch of weird people in Seattle. So weird town.
Mhm.
And I'm so grateful for it because I think I grew up around individuals um, who showed, which took me a long time to figure out, to own my own voice, but people who were just like, this is who I am and this is what I'm going to do and this is how I want to say it.
Wow.
It's a sad place. I think it's so
Mm,
gray. A lot. There's almost like perma coverage of clouds and it's beautiful though. I miss it now. I think then when you're in 10 months of rain, it can get a little
yeah.
draining. They call it seasonal affective disorder, right? Which
Sad.
is yeah,
Yeah.
right. You're not getting your vitamin. It's not like here where it's February and it was like 85 degrees the other day
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
in LA. But I came up really appreciating, I think, being raised by a single mother, single Black mother in the church, like appreciating community, appreciating justice, social justice, and appreciating a city that was just basically like go get lost in it. And it's very much one with nature, which I think is a part of me.
Nice. Would your mom, what was her occupation?
My mom my mom worked like 6 jobs at a time. So
Mm,
she practiced law when we were in Yakima, but she was did a lot of pro bono work. And then when we moved to
mm,
Seattle, basically she worked at Victoria's Secret. She worked at Bon Marché, which was like Nordstrom. She worked at
mm.
Starbucks. She worked as like for hire judge, and she was doing her law practice because she didn't make any money. As like when like all the jokes I know about lawyers is connected to, I think, like trial lawyer people who are making bank, and my mom was somebody who's always been for the people.
Nice.
So she's, you know, a brilliant woman, graduated Berkeley and San Francisco, I think, for her law degree. But she's always been somebody who I saw never put money as the motive. it's always about having a grace for people and serving a greater purpose. So, but her occupations, I would see, oh, she worked at Ray's Boathouse, which was like this fish spot. She just worked. She just, her occupation, I think her occupation was like that term that they have that's like a pejorative, social justice warrior. Like that's her occupation. But
Wow.
like all these things are just kind of, how she kept, I think, kept the roof over our heads.
Nice. And that is seeing that growing up. I mean, how do you think that influenced you to the person that you are today?
I think seeing that growing up massively influenced me. I mean, I am who I am because of my mother. Well, queens raise kings, but this whole thing, I think, especially being like a young man, a young Black man, young mixed race man, was like, I was always told and watched my mother be told that she couldn't raise like a man because like strength is not a feminine trait. And even today, I think talking to a lot of my female homies, it's like, I think it's interesting as we liberate ourselves from such binary thought that still there is this idea that strength is sort of like cornered into only being fit for a male role model. And yet I the strength, the patience, if I could be so, brash as to say this, that I have these traits, which are only a shadow of what my mother possesses, but like, I get in arguments with guys. I was like, well, we could fight. Like we could box right now if that will prove it, like that I'll scrap you.
Yeah.
Or we can agree that maybe a woman can be exemplary of all these different roles of which we wish to see in a man, in a partner, in a leader, in a collaborator. But I guess my mother gave me space to be myself too, I think partially that was because she was working so much, but she was just like, you go, son. Yeah, do that. And I'm forever thankful for that, because I know that is a true privilege.
So, we were talking about growing up, your mom being this like super amazing superwoman and how she influenced you and impacted you. And so I'm just curious, just early on, when did you even start being bit by the performing bug? I mean, was that something that happened at a young age, or did it come in later? I mean, I'm just curious about how did little Matthew get into acting?
I, you know, I really envy people who found their way to it so young. I only really probably in the past 5 years, about 5 years ago, 6 years ago, was like, oh, this is who I am and this is what I want to do. But as a kid, I was definitely a little ham acting everywhere I went. For a project for my family, I had to go back and look at some old tapes, and there's like me doing a talent show, telling jokes at a stand-up. And I used to have these big glasses. I was this little square. I had these big glasses with the lanyard on the back.
Yeah.
And I was telling these jokes. And I know as a kid, like it's what I wanted to do. But only in the past 5 years did I really, I think, feel called to actually own that. And then in that 5 years, probably around the time that we started doing a show together, did I really claim, right before that, did I claim I am an actor, not like, oh, I'm trying to become an actor. Like, oh, like I'm thinking like I enjoy acting. Like, oh, I do a thing called acting. It's like, no, I'm an actor. That ownership really only came, probably right before our show started. But as a kid, I was a little ham. I just didn't, I don't know, in Seattle and Yakima, like acting wasn't a thing. You know what I mean? I know some people who came up in performance arts. I did not. I was just running wild, pretending like I was a flying squirrel. And
Were you into sports or anything? I mean, I'm just curious, I'm curious. Gosh, it's so funny. I want to see that footage of you doing stand-up comedy as a kid.
you want to hear the
Yeah.
I was standing with these glasses. I'm like, what do you get when you cross a turtle and a porcupine? And I'm like tossing the mic like this. They're like, what? I'm like, a slow poke.
What the
And I was
heck?
like,
Oh my God. That's great. I love that. You have to share that one day. Like seriously.
I'll have to
Seriously.
do it.
Oh my
I played
gosh.
sports. I played. I wasn't very good as a kid. I was bullied a lot. Like
Mm,
as a young kid, I was bullied a lot in Yakima. Yakima was, a rough town, and it sounds like we were in the 20s because we would play with marbles like on the
wow.
playground, and uh, I used to get like, I don't know, just beat up and stuffed in trash cans and stuff.
Oh,
But I wanted to play with the kids, but I was never gifted. I wasn't like the athlete. It's crazy to think about because I remember making a choice. I was probably, well, my dad died when I was 8.
mm,
And like that was around the time that I was transitioning to Seattle and meeting new people and starting. It feels like you're starting a new life. I remember
mhm,
feeling like, oh, like I need to, I don't really, I think even at that age, I didn't like myself very much, which is
mm,
another whole nother journey of being, of having to go back to, your child self and say like, you're good.
mhm.
You're good how you are. But at that time, I was like, I need to do push-ups. And I remember I would start doing push-ups every night. Like, so I started playing soccer and football in high school, and I almost went to college to play.
Wow.
I was quite an athlete as like a teenager and now. But when I was really young, I was just like, this little bumblebee.
I can see that though. And I also just want to say, I just want to pause a little bit on I think, actors and entertainers and performers, I mean, we're such light bearers, but also just bearers of like empathy and compassion. And that has to come from a place of, things that we experience. And so, just thank you for sharing a little bit about, just what your upbringing was and, being bullied and, moving and still trying to find an identity at a young age. I mean, those are things that I so just relate to, I
Mm.
mean, 8 years old. I mean, as you were saying that, it's like, I think around the age 7 or 8, that's when I went to go live with my dad in New Orleans. And it's like, I totally relate to that. I mean, I just remember getting to New Orleans and being like, what the heck is this place? Like, and then I went to like the worst school in the neighborhood and I too was like bullied and it was like
I
insane.
think we must have had the opposite because I think I came from that environment into like a city, and I was like, you turn on the
Yeah.
TV and there's like color. Like I felt like I stepped,
Yeah.
forward 50 years. But that journey is so crazy. And I think that this is just right on time because I think I just went back to where I was born and it's such a place of beauty and strength and incredible um, leaders and young people who I see just really trying to live a life that they were imagining that they can live, and
Mm,
community workers and elders. And I dismissed it for so long. I think because I clouded it in that I'd attached it to a value judgment based on probably some traumatic experiences growing up.
yeah. I mean, going back home is hard sometimes.
Especially when home isn't home anymore. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's like, oh, the first 8 years of my life belonged to this place, but like it's and even then, and the people who I knew growing up who were my people, like I think that that's another big thing is that some people are attached to an idea of who you were,
Yeah.
and sometimes I have been guilty of regressing, of diminishing myself, of like lowering myself back towards expectations that people had of me when I was not who I am today. And it's very, it's a very reflective and informative and important thing, I think. But not everybody I think moves around like maybe you and I
Hmm.
grew up in. Like I can't think of one house. You know what I mean? When people are like, oh, like my home, like I don't have a
Yeah.
house in my mind that I belong
Yeah.
to.
That's so real. Cause I mean, yeah, I moved around a lot as a child. And I mean, I think before 8 years old, 7 or 8 years old, primarily I lived in Picayune, Mississippi, which is like what you were saying, very small town. I mean, we had
I
bikes.
forget you were
If
a real Southern girl.
Yeah, I'm a real Southern girl. And it's funny because sometimes when, I reveal that and I'll see like comments and be like, she doesn't sound like she's from the South. Like, I thought she was from California. I don't know, whatever. Maybe it was the acting training or something, but definitely grew all the way up in the deep, deep, deep South. And I feel like I've seen so much of the good and the bad of the South, and so but yeah, I mean, New Orleans is home for me. I mean, that's where I call home. But even that place that I was at, I was there for such a short period of time as well. So that home, and then I ended up moving at another place in New Orleans. But anyway, I think the beauty of kind of our lives being a little bit like nomads, it's like you just learn so much about people and the human condition, and you can really take that into your creative life. And so I feel like that's something that you've done, especially when you were talking about going back to the place that you grew up in and seeing young people wanting to kind of reshape their lives and what they see now. Because I know that you have been a part of organizing, especially during the pandemic and during, the Black Lives Matter movement, after George Floyd, passed away. And so I don't know, this was not even a part of my questions at all, but I just want to just park there a little bit and just talk about, why was that so important for you to be involved? And I mean, yes, it's obvious, but on a personal level, what did that mean for you to just be a part of the demonstrations and even document it?
I'm still like placing, I think, the chapter that we collectively had of seemingly finding ourselves advancing towards a collective in a more empathetic world of justice and racial equity, and acknowledging the fact that there's a very twisted system against Black people with anti-Blackness in America and globally, and that the export of white supremacy is kind of has its roots in almost all systems that we find ourselves interacting with as Americans. I just have such a hard time because I think in that moment, like I think that we all find ourselves called to something, and I just felt the wind at my back. And I think that we know when something is wrong. We know when something is wrong, and I
Mhm.
think that there's a lot that we can convince ourselves otherwise. There's a lot of noise in the world. And I think at that time, it's just crazy because, I've, being the son of my mom, of my mother, I've seen her on the front lines. Like she didn't even tell me, but she got batoned, beaten by a cop when she was protesting again in Berkeley. And I can't, I think the forces of this institutionalized hate and state-sponsored violence, I don't know, it was, I just couldn't see myself being anywhere but in the mix in Los Angeles and with local organizers and activists. And these are people who are lifers. There's people who have been
Yeah.
doing the work since we came out the womb and prior to that. And I think especially the spotlight that was brought to so many people who have been doing the work based off of this extraordinarily explicit and cotton 4K 9-minute tape was a match that was just burning a very large tinder pile. So I was just finding myself arm to arm with people and who have been leading this cause. And I also felt myself frustrated, I think, at like, dang, we still here?
Mhm.
I think being part of a generation where I remember when Obama was elected and they had I graduated in 2010 from high school. And I remember when Obama was elected and they had the post-racial, we've entered a post-racial society. And
Mhm.
my true like becoming in the moments of what felt like the Black Lives Matter movement of that year was me thinking, where is my place in this glacial advancement towards a more empathetic world, and a world that is explicitly acknowledging that anti-Blackness is a part of our myth and story, once again, globally, but specifically here in America. And I think I found myself frustrated because I was tired and I'd only been doing it for a second, you
Yeah.
know? Like I've been only been doing it for a second and I am exhausted. And I know people, my aunties, my mothers, you know, aunties who I see in the community in Berkeley and Yakima in Seattle who have been like fighting this fight forever. And I'm like, man. So what am I uniquely called to do here? Because if I take myself out of the street, out of showing up here daily, out of doing this on the ground activism, how does that activism then influence and inform my work? And I think it's in storytelling. And I think I realized like when I was standing there and like these cops were like tear gassing, and tear gas which is crazy to me. Like tear gas is a chemical weapon, which is outlawed by the Geneva Convention to use in war, but police in America, because of weapons deals, are authorized to use it against us. But I was like, what were the stories that these people grew up with as far as what makes a hero, of what makes strength? And I was just thinking that as a storyteller myself, I mean, as actors, we're servants to a greater story, but as a writer, director, producer that I am, who still loves entertainment and joy and freeing from concern, how do I build in a story that can push the ball away from this being seen as like that the faces that stand here across from you are somehow the enemy? So I'm sorry, this is a really long-winded answer.
No. Because I'm rocking right with you, and it makes so much sense. But continue, please.
I just realized, I think that if I wanted to have the change that I desire to see, I have to put it into the stories I tell, into the heroes that I hopefully can embody on screen, that I need to push back where it is behind the scenes, that in hiring, that in casting, and that in producing, that that there is no smoking gun that I can sort of take off the table, and there's no magic bullet to kind of kill this enemy, but that this is a slow, long fight that requires extreme lucidity in seeing what the problem is and addressing it. Because I think everybody went to sleep. Everybody wants to go to sleep after that. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. All the corporations that find it convenient to blackwash things, and I'm even dealing with it right now with one client of like, this feels really good for us to like champion. But then when it really gets down to it, is like, are you down for a commodified version of bottling up and cornering Blackness? Or are you down for an actual equitable uplifting?
It's so embedded in fear. And I know I'm talking because like my mind is going faster than what my mouth is going right now, but I'm just thinking about, this revolutionary, idea of, trying to be more inclusive, trying to be more diverse, but how it's still so embedded in fear. And it's just fear of, in order for us to be equal, that means one side has to lose something, or one side has to be, sacrifice so much. And that's not the case. I mean, there's just so much, there's infinite possibilities for us all, like we can all be a part of this greater good, and it doesn't have to be narrowed down to just one race, or one race lifting up another race. Like we can literally, I don't know, it's just the fear of it all just has to really diminish first. And I think using your artistry as activism is really the key in all of it, because this right here, these cameras, this screen, everything, it's such a powerful tool. It's a powerful weapon. And so I just commend you for, taking the step forward to picking up the camera, and using it as your paintbrush, or your, just your mode of, hey, let's pull the curtain back and just see, these stories and see us. And so, hats off to you for that. And, my big question here is, I mean, when did this start? Like, when did you say, you know what, I'm going to pick up the camera, I'm going to try my hand at producing? Did this start before you started venturing into acting, or did this kind of coincide together at the same time? Or was it something that just, how did it start? I'm just curious.
I'm so, it's so funny. I always get like, I feel like an engine start up when we talk about that last subject. I always have to.
Mhm. I
Uh,
feel it too, I totally feel it because it's so important to us.
okay, yes. When did I pick up the camera?
Mhm.
I don't know. My growing up, I had my boy Ryan was a big skater, and we grew up around like there's a big skate scene in Seattle, and the skaters would like film themselves making these edits, and I got obsessed with, which once again I think in the idea of never had I am not an advocate of ever cornering blackness in any sort of way, but even at that time I remember being like, made fun of for loving skating and snowboarding and these things.
Mm.
But it was kicking it with these skater kids and how they had a camera, and then we could borrow that camera, and we would make these stupid little things, like these stupid, like silly. I love Jim Carrey, and I love Martin Lawrence, and I love these comedians who are just like big on slapstick and silliness. And so we just made these little films. And then in high school, I was lucky enough to have a high school teacher who was really enthusiastic about film. And he taught us kind of the building blocks of story. And
Mm.
I went to a public school, but this guy just like spent all of his time teaching these kids, like, a story is once upon a time there was, and every day they did this until one day something happened. And then, because of this and because of this. And ever since that day, and then it's like, oh, okay. So I just fell in love with film. I saw Rear Window by Hitchcock, and I just was transfixed. And I just said, I want to do that. I would
Wow.
just get lost in the theater. Um, and I fell in love. It felt like falling in love,
Yeah.
you know, but with a language, but with
Mhm.
a art, you know. And then I just fell on my face for 10 years, and now I'm here, because I think that that's another part of becoming an artist, right? Is like there's like a threshold of shit.
Yeah.
Sorry, for lack of a better word, but like a
No, it's
threshold
true.
of failure, and of like they talk about it, of that gap of taste. You have good taste, but your ability, your technique is low. And that can only be achieved through trial and error. You don't come out the womb sprinting.
So you learned a little bit in high school, and then you said you went to college. Where did you go?
So for some reason, 18-year-old me went to Temple University in Philadelphia
Mm-hmm.
for a year.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I don't know why I'm in Philly. I don't know why I made this decision. And I just jumped ship, and I was like,
Mm.
oh, Los Angeles, like I'll go to UCLA. That seems like a
Wow.
cool school. They have a film program. And I was crashing on couches. I was lucky enough to like borrow a car, and I was
Yeah.
sleeping out the car. And I was going to Santa
Mhm.
Monica College to try to get credits to transfer. There was a whole thing, like you find out how high the walled garden is in higher education,
Yep.
especially with the IGETC, which is California has its own rubric. So I was just hustling, struggling, and I was told about the school named Loyola Marymount University, which I'd never heard of.
Yeah.
It's a private school. I was like, I'm nothing about it interests me. And then I visited, and then they told me what I would qualify for financial aid, and I was like, oh, okay, I'll go here. And it
Nice.
was it was it was exactly where I was supposed to be, But
What did you
that's like
major
the
in?
film production.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wow.
So once again, that was at the time where like acting wasn't really. I was like, oh, acting's like a cool thing, but I hadn't owned, like that. That's who I am.
So when did you get in front of the camera? Seriously, like when did you start being like, all right, I look good. Let me get in front of the camera. I can say a few lines.
It's crazy because it's 2022 now. So where were the past 2016, I think.
Mm.
So 2016 is when I really started, and then from there, it was, I think that you are kind of feeling it out, and then you find. I mean, education, I think, is key in all areas of things, but especially in acting. Then I found my way to UCB, Upright Citizens Brigade, for improv,
Nice.
and then I found my way to an intensive London-based academy that was in Los Angeles named Identity, which was, an incredible place of birth. It felt like, to like, this is what this is. And then, obviously I had my LA acting coach, Billy O'Leary, who's just a madman. It felt like process, and I think that to your question of like, when did I step in front of the camera, is that was married with me also saying, well, oh shoot, I need to go to work here. I need to like actually get in it. Not like the commercial classes in LA, but like really, how do I get into the script? How do I get into a character? How do I break this down? How do I memorize 10 pages of sides in a night and still be true? How do I connect? How do I listen? Which are all such simple human things. And then you put this thing in front of you, and it's like you have to relearn how to just return to a natural state, which is such a funny, like,
it is
paradox of being an actor.
It really is. I mean, I think about, my first acting gig. I mean, I was still in college, and, I got this opportunity to be in a movie, and I was going to school to study theater. And I mean, I could get up there on stage and do the Shakespeare and the Greek plays and the Moliere. But then I get this movie, and it's like they put that camera in my face, and I was like, what, who, and what? Like, what am I doing? And so I did that movie, and people were like, oh, you should leave school, just go move to LA, you just got a movie, blah blah blah. And I was like, no, I'm gonna stay at school, because I just don't feel like I've learned a lot yet. And I was just like, let me just kind of figure out, what am I trying to do with this, and how can I be better at it? And so it's so interesting, because we're just like you said, it's just that camera can be such a microscope. And I just feel like, the more you just learn about like your humanness, the better you can be on camera, and just listen and react and all that stuff. But it's not easy. I mean, like,
it's
like you see, I mean, what we do, on the show and stuff, like none of that work is easy at all. I mean, we have fun doing it, but it's hard,
Listen, if you could call Robert De Niro up and have him come drop into a Tyler Perry set, I challenge him to.
I know, right? I think about that too with the greats. I'm like, they'd be like, what?
Well, yeah, first of all, they say no.
Yeah.
they'd be like, wait, that was my rehearsal?
Yeah.
Like that's but yeah, I think that it exposes, I think that the zen required in the show that we do is really such a meditation on that. It exposes such neediness. I think when you're in front of the camera, right? The camera is suddenly calling forth, if you're going to give it any of your insecurities, any of your like vanities. And I think that that's why the people that we really who are in their body, or who are able to just let go of themselves and listen and respond, like, oh, like they're that's what connection looks like. And then we also see the person who is like, am I looking as best as I can right now?
Oh yeah, exactly.
So such a wonderful study of like humanity, just putting the camera out, right? The observer effect. So yeah, I don't know. I'm in love with what we do.
Yeah, me too.
But it took me a while, right? Sierra, because I think for like the longest time, I was like, this ain't real. Like that was a part of it. I was like, I should have been a doctor. I could really help people. I remember your whole story of after Katrina, and you, like, I mean, you've been a healer in so many ways, I think, in your life. If I'm putting too much on you, let me know.
No, I mean, but thank you. But yeah.
You know what I mean? No, it's like, it took me a while to be like, no, this is real. This is serving, this, and to the idea of, once again, of seeing like hatred in somebody's eyes who's supposed to be serving and protecting. It's like, oh, they've been watching stories their whole life. That justifies what they do. They turn on the TV every day and they see something that justifies what they do. They read Facebook or whatever, and they see a message that justifies that their actions are not just like viable, but they're right. And I think when you step into a role, or when you write a role, when we do, like, we are contributing or detracting from that story, you know.
Yeah. I would
So
say, I definitely relate to you too, as far as being comfortable to just announce that you're an artist, that you're an actor. I mean, sometimes I still, struggle with it, when I'm doing some of these meetings of my nonprofit organization. I'm like, I'm Sierra Payton, I'm an actor. And then, and I'm just like, and somebody challenged me on that not so long ago in one of my meetings. They were like, yo, you're an actor, like own that, And and I don't know what that is about us. It's like, I think in general, I think the concept or the perception of actors are that, we're kind of these spoiled, creatures that just get paid to be on TV if you are working, obviously. And then, like, if you're not, you're just like the starving artist that's waiting tables. And it's like, no, I really, what I've tried to do over the last few years is just really look at it as a noble thing, as
mm,
a like you said, as a healing thing. I mean, after Katrina, I was like, I'm going to go be a nurse. I'm going to go be a doctor because I really want to do something of, healing, of benefiting the world and the community. But I think just our presence on TV, just the simple, fact of us, getting up and wanting to, use our life experiences to portray characters that could be real people in the world is a very healing and noble thing, because you're literally giving life to a being, through your own personal lens. And I just think that there's so much beauty in that. And I feel like so many people can see us on screen or see the characters that we're portraying and relate to that and find strength and beauty in all of that. And so it's so funny that we shy away from that, and that we shy away from that identity of it. You know what I mean? Because
completely,
it's
completely,
weird.
completely. I mean, I find myself constantly like trapped or maybe dancing between these paradoxes that exist. And I think that that's where beauty is in a lot of ways. But, I'm very much of the school of when I saw Denzel at that round table and he's like, this isn't a hard job. He was like,
Mm,
go get shot at, for a living. Like, because he's like, that's a hard job. And I'm of that, and being like, wow, I am literally in make believe. I am doing this,
mm,
and at the same time, I can also acknowledge the truth and beauty, which is exactly what you're talking about, where hopefully, and objectively, you could say, like, this is freeing somebody from concern today. This is showing somebody a reflection of themselves that maybe they needed to hear today, and that this
mm,
takes so many different forms in what we do. But it is noble. I think I really like what you said there. Like, I think that is a noble pursuit. And then, of course, how we go about it. And I think that that's where it connects, I think, to the question before, is I realized that there is a responsibility that I hadn't acknowledged before. And I think more and more this responsibility I feel, which is that I need a mindfulness with how I cast my own projects, with what this is saying, with me airing it to somebody else. Because if something like the Green Book can continue to win an Oscar, something that, in
mm,
my opinion, and to my grandfather's opinion, has nothing to do with the Green Book, that,
mm.
that millions and millions of people are going forward with an idea of what racial equity looks like, or what like love looks like. And yeah, I mean, I was watching Love and Basketball the other day, shout out Valentine's Day, and I was like, this is
Nice.
the love that I was like, this is the love that I was like, yo, if my girl ain't like finna fight me
Oh.
over something, like, I don't want it. Like, I don't know if that was, at least we could like point at it, and be like, hey, y'all, this isn't like, a kid ain't gonna fix everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Oh my
So then
gosh.
just having a kid, I'm like, oh, okay, everything's fine. That's what I was seeing.
I was just reading a blog post, side note, about like all the top Valentines or love movies from back in the
uh,
day that actually like display the wrong type of love.
sure,
Like, I was like,
sure.
dang, I used to love that movie, but that's so true. That is a
Yeah,
little toxic.
exactly.
You're like,
Exactly. Exactly.
oh man,
Um,
yeah. But it's yeah, I mean, we're so a part of it all. The whole storytelling aspect of it. And I don't know, I just think back to, one day, well, this was when we were filming, I think season 1 or season 2, and I had mentioned something to the extent of like, I just want people to be entertained by what we're doing, as well. And like, I remember Daniel being like, well, not just entertained, but like healed. And I was like, that's so interesting, because I do think entertainment is healing. It could be healing. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah, those aren't separate.
yeah, they're not separate. Because I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
about, people, coming home after a long day of work, and like if they can just sit down and get lost in what we are doing for an hour and forget about, the stress of the day, or they can laugh, or again, like see themselves in what we're doing. Like, I think that's a service, to
Yeah, heck yeah.
like, yeah, to our people, to our audience, at least,
Which can feel, I think, frustrating, especially for Black folks or for any marginalized people, where it's like, oh, we finally get the door open, right? Or you get, hey, you have the light on you, so we need everything to get inside that little circle of light right now. Like, I need like everything I've wanted to see on screen in there. But I think that we're making, and my hope is that as an artist, like, we're creating a garden with each of our works, and that's not like a big blender of a smoothie. Like, you're not putting like
yeah,
the social, like, righteousness and like inspirational love and the comedy and the dignified like roles like all into a blender. It's that I remember when I asked Tyler Perry, as if I was speaking for somebody else, what do you say to people when they tell you that like they want to see something better from you, like better? And he was like, I say, why don't they do it? Like, why don't you
yeah,
do it? Like, I'm making what I want, and the people who watch what I make like what I make because they continue to watch it. So why don't you do it? And that's it, like,
yeah,
that's it. So I think as we continue to kind of serve a garden of variety, a garden of like holistic storytelling, it's that, like you're saying, like, this entertainment, like this plant of entertainment is medicine.
yeah,
Like, I think I realize, like, on our show, like, that when I come, like, that's what I am serving. And when I look around me, I see beautiful Black faces that I do not see when I'm on the lot of some of these other studios. I see it in front and behind the camera, and I say that that's incredible. And then when I go over to this plot of land that I'm building, it's like I see stories of liberation and medicine too, but it takes this shape,
yeah,
But yeah, that which is totally understandable, but our like, dang, that spotlight is on, so like everybody get in there, you know, um, can be stifling, can be reductionist. It's like, how the scope of who you are and what stories you could tell. I mean, but I guess it's like sometimes we want it now, right? Like everything we want.
yeah, we do. And I think like that's just just in general, our audiences, and just our business in general. It's like, we're always looking at from a standpoint of back then and versus now, and just underestimating, how what the journey ahead looks like. You know what I'm saying? And that it's not over yet. Like this isn't the end all be all. I think we're so, I don't know, I just think as artists and people in the business, and even just audiences in general, it's just like we're so quick to be discouraged by the past and by the present, rather than like, yo, like we're at this stepping stone right now, and this isn't the only stepping stone. Like there's so much more to come, and we're telling these stories, we're just getting started, and we're learning and getting better, with each and every moment. So it ain't over,
No, it ain't over, and it's like it's in the soil too. I think
Mhm.
about, like, I went to film school where like I have to watch Birth of a Nation by D.W. Griffith, which is
Wow.
which was the the lit torch that led the resurgence of the Klan. Um,
Mm.
and meanwhile, there are incredible storytellers, forebearers in Black directors and writers who exist. And like, I think of even like Julie Dash's Daughters of the Dust, or
Mhm.
Casey, what's her last name? Eve's Bayou,
Oh
Casey
yeah. Oh
Clemens.
gosh. Yeah.
But you know, these are and there's this brother in the 20s who was a silent filmmaker who went door to door raising his own funds, telling Black stories. Tyler actually has a picture of him up at his studio. But
Mm.
like, I didn't learn about them. And I just think about the institution when we have a system, right? Like, that there is a forest that exists, of which the seeds that are planted are based on an image of a history in filmmaking that completely makes this moment feel like a novelty, when in reality there were so many people who've been trying to knock on the door for so long.
Yeah.
And I think that like, we can't be brand new to this too. You know, it's not like
Mm-hmm.
we're like this is not brand new. We stand on shoulders. You know, we stand on so many shoulders. I mean, shoot, to be able to go to that studio opening,
I know, right?
I felt like was like a don't miss this. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, don't miss this, and you're here for a reason. When we were pulling in, I kind of had the window cracked, and this lady was like, "Who is that? Like, that's somebody. Like, who?"
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Oh, I ain't nobody. I was like, oh, I ain't nobody. I said that. And she was like, you better act like you are, sweetheart, because you're here for a reason.
Wow.
And I think that, to your point earlier, it's like, the sooner we arrive at accepting a sense of wholeness and purpose and of self, and that being directed through our passions, like, the sooner we truly step into, I think, who we are here to be, you know, what we are meant
Yeah.
to do.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, doubt comes too easy. I think we're too programmed for it, for that fear.
It's oh gosh. I mean, I hate it. And I'm just coming to terms of accepting that's just a part of the programming. And it's like, to just see that fear, it's like it's gonna be there, but I'm not gonna let it, swallow me personally. Or, and I hope that it doesn't swallow us as a whole, because there's so many torchbearers, Tyler being one of them, and and you too, I mean, just like I said earlier, like hats off to you to just pick up the camera, I mean, I admire that so much. I mean, making films is not an easy thing to do, and to
Oh,
just
it's
be
so hard.
bold and brave enough to just step up and say, like, look, man, I'm going to do this. I'm going to tell this story, and I'm going to film it, and I'm going to put it up on its feet, and I may fall or fail, but who cares? I'm going to do it. And so
Thanks,
it's
yeah.
it's an amazing thing. And so and this is really, one of the big reasons why I just wanted to have this space and talk with you, because again, it's not an easy thing to do. I mean, I have scripts written that are like maybe 15 years old, and I'm like, when will I ever film that, if I ever will? And again, it's that fear factor. But I look at someone like you, and you're like, screw it, I did it, and I'm still doing it. I mean, you have something. Did you just complete the recent short that you did, the true story?
Oh yeah. So we are we just finished Slam Dance with that, and then we have a few other.
Wow.
There's I'm not sure when this is coming out. I'm not supposed to. Well, it doesn't freaking
I
matter.
mean,
But yeah, like,
however, I mean, whatever you feel
it doesn't.
comfortable with sharing.
But yeah, it's making a festival run, and it's been successful in that way.
Congratulations. That's
But
awesome.
oh, thanks, Sierra. But honestly, I think the true success is that I just wanted to say something, and I just was like, this is how it's gonna be, and this is what it's gonna look like, and this is who's gonna be in it. And we just did it like that. You know, it's this year feels like it's different in the sense that I think I was shying off of the gas, that I think the level of our potential sometimes scares us, and I start to see dreams start to get scaled back,
Yeah.
because a reality feels too that it exceeds our reach, that our grasp exceeds our reach. And this year I just am like, no, it's like, it feels life or death for me when I'm like, what if I treated my work like it's as important to me as I feel that it really is. Like if I didn't diminish it, you know?
Mhm.
So each time I just feel like that wind that was at my back, which is what I felt during the year of Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, the George Floyd protests, was that I felt that there's a wind at the backs, and I feel that there is a wind that blows in the directions of progressive change. And I feel that that is the same wind that hits our wings when we are truly like stepping towards purpose. And now I'm like, maybe I'm crazy, or maybe this is really just what I'm here on earth to do, you know? And each time you feel yourself getting better, and it's like, oh no, this is really like,
Mhm.
this is the last shoot that we had. It was just like, I was looking around, I was like, is this supposed to feel this good? You know, it's not crazy, it's not anxious. I was just like, no, I know what it is, I know this is it, I trust that person, what do you think is best? I don't know what to do here. Oh, you do? Great, let's do it. You know, and I was like,
Mhm.
oh, is this what it means to be in fellowship? You know, is this what it means to be having your skill match maybe your vision? um and then you see all the areas where you want to improve, and it's like, man, I'm still learning. Like, I'm a student every day. And I think that white belt mentality is like, I learned from you. Like, I remember stepping into your room at Actors Row and being like, oh man, look at how Sierra plots her emotional state. Oh, look at how Sierra, I don't want to give away your secrets, but you know, look at
One
these,
day I'll share them all, but
as you
yeah.
should. Yeah, so many actors I think would benefit from it, but look at these keys that she brings to set with her. You know what I mean? And that's all in preparation.
Mhm.
So there's the trust and the spontaneity, and then the ability to like jump in the water and be able to swim. And there's the knowledge that like, I've been practicing my breath, you know, before I even step into the sea. Like, I'm ready for it. So yeah, what a journey, huh?
It's such a journey. And I think it's just, again, it's so beautiful, all of it, the good, the bad, and the ugly of it. And I think, you know, to go back to what you said about what Denzel had said, it's just like, this is really easy work, but we just make it hard because it really is just us dealing with ourselves. You know what I mean? And it's just like,
Yeah.
and it's like, the more and more you could just get comfortable with, who you are, and also comfortable with like the parts of you that you don't know yet. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, the easier it is, and the fun. It could be so much fun,
That
because
crazy, it has to come
we
back to,
get.
yeah.
No, sorry, go ahead, go.
It has to come back to fun. Just play, you know, like play.
Play. I mean, I think
Yeah.
about it, and I mean, I remember when I was working on a movie, me and the director, we were talking, and we were just kind of like, just talking about like, okay, like what's our vision for this thing? And I said, you know what, man, like, we got this, like we understand this world. And I was like, I think now I want to challenge us both to just be kids again, and to just like play, like, what are games kids used to play, make believe, like you're a Disney princess or something, like
Mhm.
just get into that spirit of play. And I think because that's what we got into this for, to play. I think, I think that there's other bigger
Yeah,
reasons too, but
yes.
it's just like bringing that play aspect into it, and really donning the characters and the situations and the circumstances. It's like the minute you just really tap into that and let go, it's a lot of fun, and it's crazy fun, I mean, especially with the show that we're on, and the things and the circumstances that we get into. It's like, what? Like, this is insane, but it's fun and it's crazy at the same time. And I think the audiences are like right there on the ride with us. So it's dope. It's dope. So
It is
yeah.
dope. It is, and it is a one of one. You know, I mean, I think sometimes I think like, why did God like place me into this environment? And I think that the amount of self-assuredness that you have to either form
Mm-hmm.
or like try to hold on to in an environment where it's not going to slow down for you. Like you have to jump onto the treadmill as it's on 20, you know, you know, and that is, I think that makes for a sort of like monk warrior kind of actor who has to somehow be present. You have to do one of the crazy things that you have to do 10 minutes later, have to like pretend like you are 3 episodes, you know, it's just like the amount that is demanded is something that I hear and have faced people try to diminish to my face. And as Brisha Webb would say, she would say, and you
I
are.
love her.
What she'd say, and you are.
And you are? Oh, I love that. I love that.
That's what Brisha.
I'm stealing that from her.
Yeah. And she with the glasses said, and you are.
And you are? Okay. I'm going to take that from her. I love her, by the way. I haven't had the pleasure of working with her, but I've been in her presence a few times, and she's
you must. You will.
She's good people. She's really good people.
She's great people.
Yeah.
And that's what I am also so grateful for, to be able to look around and be like, I'm so inspired by Sierra Payton, by Daniel Croy, by Tisha Renee, by like all these people I see in front of me. And what a pressure cooker, you know, what a crucible. This place feels like a crucible. And can I just come back to the fact of, can I be present? Can I listen? Can I play? Can I be truthful? So it is dope, as you said.
What and this is off topic, or maybe not, but when you're directing, you know, how do you harness an environment like that, you know, for your actors, or just for everybody to feel comfortable and free? You know, what are some things that you implement to allow that?
I'm realizing in the space, I'm realizing that as a director, like I have my own demands that shift and change according to whatever the scene and whatever the story is. So I did something recently where it felt like it was about these two people on screen, and it's about them, and we're gonna just find it. So guys, why don't we hear it out loud? I kind of saw it from Tyler. Let's hear it, you know. So all right, hearing it. All right. Well, I think we're here, and I think we're there. And then, so that's basically like, hey, the camera is gonna dance, and we're just gonna like let the scene play out. Improv is encouraged and appreciated. And then I have my cinema like anal brain, which is like I have everything storyboarded, and it's like that's a really great impulse that you have, and I want you to endorse that impulse with action, but it needs to be here, you know.
Yeah.
It has to be here. But I think honestly, I work with somebody who was our teacher at Identity, Rebecca Rainey, and she does movement and breath. And what has become mandatory for me on actually every single thing that I've directed in the past couple of years, past year and a half, has been, and she has been available, having Rebecca basically have an hour with the actors to warm up beforehand. And that's breath, that's movement, that's chakra, that's all of our weird stuff that we do so that they can drive into their body before we even talk about the lines, you know what I mean? I realized that's like, I think as an actor training, like, wow, I really responded to that. And I think for the very heady actors who I see, it's like, I need you to just turn that off for an hour. Cause like, don't worry, we're not started. Like it's an hour before we built this into the call time. I don't care what producers say. I don't care. I need this out. I don't care if y'all need to set up that light. Like it's for them to be able to arrive. And that's, I think as a director, what I have been humbled by is like, as an actor, I don't need you to like come in and take me apart. I just need to arrive.
Yeah.
You know? And so I think that I just like to give a space for them to have an hour with this coach who is so good.
That's incredible. To be able to
arrive into their bodies and into their breath. And then I will come in and get, you know.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Cause it's such a collaborative process, but you know, we all have our shit, you know, so it's like to be able to give a space to where it's like, just let it go. That's
it, right? Because it's the taking away sometimes.
Yeah.
It's not about, let's add this shit. It's like, no, like, hey, just just be here, you know, right now. But that takes a process, you know.
Mhm. Ooh, I love that. All right, I'm gonna have to get on your set one of these days. You're
We must
gonna have to let me do a little something over there. So all right, so I'm just gonna digress, and I want to get into these rapid fire
Oh yeah,
questions.
yeah.
I don't know if you had a chance to take a look at those, but
I
I'm
did not.
so curious. It's all good. It's all good because I like hitting people with these anyway.
Okay.
So yeah, you get like a sentence or two to just answer them, a few seconds or whatever. And then, we might park on a few if it's like super, if it needs that, if we need to have
I
that
like
space.
the park. I like this park metaphor.
Yeah. I don't know. It just like started coming up organically. I don't know if I heard it somewhere, but I like parking on things now. So all right. Let's just dive in. So who's your favorite actor?
Watched Great Debaters for the first time yesterday.
Oh,
I love
wow.
Denzel Washington. I
Yeah.
don't know why I've never seen that. It has the
Good movie.
ubiquitous, like lift the score, all the Negroes applaud.
Yeah.
There is this actor that I am fascinated with, and I think he dominates and is so magical and so magnetic and so still. And I think that that's why I'm very I'm very attracted to his performances. Is Kevin Kline.
Ooh,
Kevin Kline to me is like, every time I see him in something, I'm just he's not like a stereotypically kind of like leading man, kind of handsome. He just has it. He just has it here.
Yeah.
So I'm a big fan of Kevin Kline. That's the answer right now because I just saw him in something.
All right, I'll take it. I like that.
He's not my favorite though. I don't know who.
Okay. That's cool too, because I feel like mine always changes. So.
Sarah Payton. That's my favorite actor.
Oh gosh. Okay. Well, thank you. And I would say you're my favorite actor for right now. All right. So is there a dream role or project that you'd like to be a part of or create yourself?
There is a dream role or project that I would love to be a part of. Aside from, working with directors like Steve McQueen or Barry Jenkins or Ryan Coogler or Scorsese or Bong Joon-ho. Golly, like I would love.
Oh yeah.
Oh. But the role which I wrote basically a pilot for, and then I have a kind of sizzle that I want to make is to play it's this version of Batman called Batman Beyond. It's kind of like Batman in the future. And so I sort of reimagined what I thought that would look like. And once again, to our conversation before about what does like peace look like, what does a hero look like when it is not based in sort of this. I love Batman, and the more I grow up, the more I'm like, yo, this dude, it's hard for me to watch the original Batman trilogy now, because like a spoiled rich white kid with some deep psychological issues who's basically like leaning towards fascism. And I'm like,
yeah.
But I still love Batman. And I would love to actually I can't give it away here, but I'll share it with you. But okay. That's the role that I would.
Ooh, I love that. All right, I like that because we need that representation. You know what I mean? So.
You know what I'm saying? Oh, I was gonna say that real quick. Tangent back to earlier. When we talk about, I think, what in the wake and preceding, it's not a wake or preceding, it is the wave of what was revealed to us with the year during George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, is when people were talking to me of like, we need to see more diversity in the writers' room or directors. I was like, well, it's not like diversity doesn't mean that you are like 8 out of 10 of the people in this room being white dudes, and then you add in Latina voices or indigenous voices or Black or brown, like that's not diversity, that's reality. So I think like even the phrasing that we use of like, oh, this needs to be more diverse is like, what are you talking about? There is no word, like the globe does not look like, even though white supremacy would dictate it that it does not look like this, right? Reality, the reality that is objective to the globe and the reality that I see in my community looks like this, right?
Yeah.
Looks like this sort of representation. So I've been trying to pick at when people say that even the terminology that we use, you know, has that power dynamic built in, that basically, to your point, somebody is losing something for equality to be gained here, for a positive justice to happen. So anyways.
Yeah, no, I relate to that hardcore, because I even prior to the pandemic and everything that happened, you know, with all the Black Lives Matter awareness, I just, even using that word diversity always felt very like separating, you know, to me, because it's kind of like this versus this. And I'm like, you know, I just trying to find the right word has been a little challenging, but you know, there's also the word inclusion, you know, like being inclusive, which I think is good, but it still feels like a mask type of word as well. But I
It's
think,
just,
you know, it's just like, it's like at this stage, we just gotta like you said, reflect the world that's around us, you know?
right. I'm like, sometimes I'm like, yo, whose words am I putting in my mouth? Sometimes I'm like,
Yeah.
yo, like whose perspective am I speaking from? And once again, I just think, coming back to mindfulness, you know, coming back to examination, and coming back to like critical thinking. Not in a Facebook post, critical thinking, but but in a sense of, does this accurately reflect, I guess, you know, the world I wish to see, and the actions that I'm using. I'm sorry, we're on rapid fire though. We're not.
No, it's all good. I mean, like, look, a lot of this stuff, we can break it up into a 4 or 5 part series, and, you know, have it be Matt and Sierra time, you know, because it's so deep. But yes, but we'll continue with the rapid fire. So, okay, so let's see, what was my other question? Oh yeah, this. So what's some of the, not some, but what's the worst advice you've ever received?
Don't do that. Worst advice. Play it safe. There's been a couple of things that come to mind right now, but that is definitely one. Play it safe. Don't do that. I find myself drawn to all these different areas of film. They're like, just edit, you know, stick yourself behind a computer and don't emerge, which was, you know, spoke to my own fear and insecurities, which then I embraced for too long. But, you know, people tell you things that they're scared to do themselves. Yeah.
So on the flip side of that, best advice ever given or received?
Be true to yourself, says my Nana. I think that that's such a simple statement, but when you really come up against winds of change, like it lets you really know. Best advice: stretch. Yo, dead ass. I think at a round table, Adam Sandler gave that. Like, somebody was like, "What's the best advice as an actor?" He's like, "Yo, stretch." Like, I'm dead serious. Like,
That's so true.
And I think about it. I stretch every day. We come to set. Like, I'm stretching.
Nice. So, I love it. So if you weren't in the arts, you know, producing, directing, writing, acting, what else would you be doing?
Gosh, Sierra, I think about this all the time. I have no idea. I'd want to become like a secret agent or something, but then I'm like, then you're like murdering people. I don't want to do that, you know.
You totally stole mine, by the way, because that's like my thing. I'd be working for the CIA or something, or maybe
you know
be a pediatrician.
Like, I'll do that, but I'll just like chop him in the neck or something.
Yeah, you know, just shoot him in the leg. That's all.
Yeah.
You don't have to kill him.
And then you pose.
Exactly.
I think we have a very accurate idea of.
I know. I have a friend that works for the CIA, and to this day, I still don't know exactly what he does in the CIA. And I'm like, dude, can you just tell us? And he's like, no, I can't. I'm like, are you a security guard? Like, just tell us.
Yeah, you punching numbers. Are you an accountant?
Oh, man. But no, to this day, we don't know exactly what he does, but he's shown us his badge from the CIA. And we're like, what? You know, so
okay.
Anyway. Anyway, yeah.
I do that, or I would have pursued my dreams of becoming like an international soccer football superstar.
Mm, nice.
But then I'd be,
Nice.
you know, football is or soccer is such a beautiful game to me. And it is
It
international.
is.
You know, you can go anywhere and it's not like there's no you'll see kids barefoot with banana leaves, you know, rolled up playing
Yeah.
soccer. It's a beautiful sport.
All right. Well, you kind of answered this a little bit, but I'm going to ask anyway. Is there a dream talent that you like to work with, like director, actor, producer, writer, musician?
Oh, there's so many.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many. I think I really want to make a video game with this designer named Hideo Kojima, who's like I really want to work with Iñárritu, the director. And I was thinking about this. They say don't meet your idols, and probably right now with the current, I mean, it's never ending since 2007. But I saw Kanye in concert last year, and he breaks my heart all the time. And but as an artist, he's my favorite artist. And I was like, man, would I want to like work with him? I don't think I would. I think it would ruin everything.
Well, you never know.
Right?
You never know.
Right. And I would have loved to work with Denzel. I mean, that would be no. Because that's like Mahershala. I would love to work with Mahershala Ali.
Did you see Swan Song?
So I did. It was great.
So good.
So sorry, somebody's vacuuming.
It's all good because we're at the end now. So
you should
it's like the sweep
playoff. Yeah, exactly. At the Apollo. So I the vacuum's on.
Yeah. No, it's all good. But again, I so appreciate you just taking the time out, to just, grace us with your presence, coming in on the In Trive. This is so awesome. I'm so grateful for you. Thank you.
Sierra. Honestly, I hope that you're letting somebody ask you questions. And if nobody ever does, unless that, I would love to. It's so lovely to talk to you.
Hey, might have to do that because no one has asked me questions, but I'm keeping the space for you guys, for the guests. So
all right, well, the finale or something needs to be you.
All right.
Well, the people need to know.
Well, thanks. The very last thing just to say is, the In Tribe stands for the Inspired Thriving Tribe. And so I just want to know, how do you stay inspired to thrive?
How do I stay inspired to thrive? I look to my left and my right and see the people that I consider my friends and my peers and my collaborators who constantly inspire me. I give thanks to, the power that's greater than us all and the blessing of life that I've been bestowed with. And I go outside and I listen to music. I think to the earlier point, I think coming back to nature allows me to be inspired with the beauty of this world that we've been placed in. It's so watch good movies, listen to good music, eat good food.
I love that. Oh, I love that. Thank you so much, Matt. I so appreciate you, man. This was great, man. Yeah. So, all right. Well, have a great rest of your day. And I'm excited to share this with everyone. So thank you again.